all she said.
Nothing.
Folks, we've reached our starting time. If we could begin by rising if you're able, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Welcome to this town hall this evening. My name is Tom Foster, and I'm the president of the 2026 Board of Directors. This meeting will be audio and video recorded by the RCSC as well as live streamed. Please be advised there is to be no recording of this meeting by other individuals. And take out your cellular devices. Let me check. Make sure they're on a silent mode. Also, as a reminder, we do not tolerate verbal or physical abuse toward any member, any guest, any visitor, or any employee. And if that were to take place, the violators might be asked to leave the meeting. Let me introduce quickly the Board of Directors and our timekeeper tonight. Director Ruff is ill tonight. Director Brissett.
Good evening, everybody.
Secretary Keiss.
Good evening.
Vice President Nettesheim.
Good evening, everybody.
Treasurer Gray.
Good evening.
And Director Mapes.
Good evening.
You need to reach to the mic there.
Child down here, you know?
Our timekeeper tonight will be Secretary Keiss. We weren't sure how many folks were going to show up this evening, so we decided, well, just to be safe, we would follow our standard 3-minute policy, so pull a number in the back if you haven't already done so. And hopefully we'll be able to give as many people as possible a chance to ask questions after the presentation this evening. And if there are other questions after everyone has had a chance to speak the first time, we'll see how much more we can accommodate after that point, depending on what time it is. Okay. Let me just turn the meeting over now to Triarch here, who will be presenting several design variations on the member-driven Alternative 3 plan for the Mountain View facility that the board had voted on last September. And gentlemen and ladies, if you would take over and lead us through the presentation.
Thanks, folks. My name's Tom Connor. I'm with Triarch Architecture. I have Jill Hamblin with us, also from Triarch, and then Brad Lang and Eric Sterner from Last Architects, our partners. So appreciate you joining us again for this next iteration of this project that's, I know, has been a long time coming. So we kind of want to do a very, very quick recap of kind of the community engagement process that we did with everybody back in the summer and fall of last year, as far as where we got to this option 3 that the board voted on in September. And then talk about how we then try to right-size that option 3 to a budget. And so that's what we've been working on these last couple of months is doing several iterations, which I think Chris talked about in the exchange meeting yesterday, these permutations of option 3 to do that. And then in addition to that, we want to talk to you about our research on the retractable seating versus fixed seating floor for the auditorium portion of the project. So with that, I'll hand it over to, who's going, Eric's going next, or Brad.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brad Lang. I'm with Last Architects. Very excited to be with you again. We always enjoy these opportunities to share with the community. And so like Tom said, we left our last meeting with a vote on a particular option, exploring the renovation of the Mountain View Recreation Center. And that option was called number 3. We didn't come up with any fancy names at the time. And in order to keep everyone on the same page, we're going to continue calling it option 3 tonight. We're not going to change that. But you will see some variations on option 3, which are very creatively called 3A, 3B, 3C, et cetera. So we save all of our creativity for the actual architecture part, not the naming part. But just to get started and set the table for the discussion tonight, a quick recap of the process that we've gone through with your community to get us to where we are today. If you remember, I'm sure a lot of you have seen us in your community over the past multiple months, asking you questions about what the community needs at Mountain View, what are your desires, what are the principles that we need to adhere to as we move through this project. And I just want to remind the folks, maybe some folks who are hearing this for the first time, that community outreach process that we went through engaged you both physically on site and digitally through SurveyMonkeys and other types of engagement practices. And that was a very revealing and exciting process that revealed a lot of interesting principles that the community wanted us to hold dear as we looked through this process. And that was, and you can see them up here on the right, this idea of fiscal responsibility, preserving amenities, renovating and modernizing, sustainability and maintainability, inclusivity and accessibility, efficiency and effectiveness, and this notion of quality of life and enjoyment. And so those are very broad topics, yes, but they do anchor a lot of our thinking towards how we put forward an option or test an option or even debate an option with the board, internally with ourselves, et cetera. And so with that as a foundation, if you remember, option 3 was voted on, and again, it was an option that all of the options looked at Mountain View holistically. If you remember, some of the guiding principles there were about looking at all of the amenities. And while there was some very vigorous debate about certain aspects of Mountain View, option 3 was that kind of base option that seemed to touch as many of these principles and do the greatest good for the most amount of people in the community that would be using this. Well, with that vote in place, the board instructed us to look at various financial pathways to work the option to certain numbers. And so what we're going to show you today is our preliminary cost estimate for option 3, and then various pathways that we explored to look at cost reduction opportunities. And we want to make sure that everyone is very aware and understands that each of these cost reduction options come with trade-offs. Some things go away, some things get smaller. But I think it'll give everyone tonight a very broad understanding of how Mountain View can move forward, depending on those price points that we want to meet. Okay, so this was option 3. And what I want to do is talk briefly about what it all entailed and then what that number at the bottom means. And so just a quick synopsis. Again, option 3 touched every part of Mountain View. The elements to the right, and I can expand a little bit upon what each of those elements encompasses. So like site area, that encompasses redoing the parking lots, redoing the landscaping, redoing hardscape, redoing the perimeter fencing, all of those things. There's an important line item from a cost perspective that we need to address, this idea of storm retention. I think a lot of you who I've spoke to in the community have familiarity with construction, design, and you know that when we renovate Mountain View, we're going to have to bring it up to current codes. One of those pieces of code that has become more strict over the years, decades, I know this is an older building, is how we deal with stormwater and how we deal with retaining stormwater. And so there is a significant, potentially a significant number there as we update the facility. Parking repaving, outdoor kitchen, and again, outdoor kitchen might be overblowing what that is. It was a barbecue area, an outdoor barbecue area. New pickleball courts, and then renovating the existing pickleball courts. You have a current clubhouse by the pickleball courts. That would be redone. Tennis court upgrades. Mini golf building, that would need to be redone in this scheme. There was also mini golf upgrades that included shade and seating and other elements. Aquatics, the demolition of the decking, which is in a pretty bad shape currently. The new aquatics locker room. Another important piece of this from a code and upgrade point of view is those locker rooms, those shower rooms, all of the things that support aquatics. That really needs to get enhanced through this project as well. All of the things associated with the pools, there would be a new therapy pool as well, so a new pool equipment. Aquatics audio-visual system. We heard a lot about the various types of activities the aquatics would support, and an AV system would be needed there. And then, of course, the shape that you see on the left there is basically an outline of the building for performance programs, fitness programs, and facility programs. So one building that encompassed all of those major program pieces in the basically option 3 wish list. Okay, so that project represented everyone who we spoke to about these various pieces, kind of their best hope for the project. And that came with a cost of $32,600,000 and change. Now, what is that number? We wanted to be very certain. Now, this is conceptual, of course, but we have a very good contracting partner who's helping us with our conceptual estimates, who builds these types of projects, that we were coming to you with a total project number. So often you hear about construction costs or costs for FF&E, which is something called furniture, fixtures, and equipment, or costs for design fees, or costs for contractor fees, or labor costs. This is a number that encompasses all of those things. So we wanted to make sure that we were coming to the community with a number that represented total project cost. And so that's everything. That's furniture, that's the fees, that's fees to the county, that's everything. Construction, labor, materials, all of it. So this was our baseline. And from that baseline, we took on the challenge of figuring out how we could find reductions and what would those reductions look like, and would those reductions be amenable to the community and to the folks here today. And so if we go to I keep forgetting that I control. If we go to the next slide, creatively named option 3A, the easiest way to have an impact on cost is to reduce scope. So what does that mean? That means don't do everything that we set out to do to begin with. And so this option was specifically about getting to a total project cost number of $28 million. And the path that worked for us, that seemed to do the least amount of disruption in terms of want, but it's still significant. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This is a significant cut to go from 32 to 28 million, is as follows. The outdoor kitchen barbecue area, we just eliminated it from the scope of the project. That wasn't that big of a number, but it was also a luxury item. The clubhouse that was to be rebuilt, no. We just said we will keep the existing as it is. The new pickleball courts remain. The tennis remains, but the upgrades to tennis could not happen in this particular option and budget. Mini golf remains, but the upgrades to mini golf couldn't happen in this budget. The idea of rebuilding the small mini golf building with the restrooms, that wouldn't be possible in this particular option, so the existing is to remain. The aquatics pool and the modifications to the aquatics locker room remain. Again, those are kind of baked in some very serious code issues that we'll need to maintain as we move through this project. And then the building itself, we looked at particular reductions in all of the building programs within it. And so the performance space had a small reduction of 3,000 square feet. The fitness space had a reduction of 2,000 square feet. And the facility space had a reduction of about 500 square feet. The facilities areas was the least big of the three areas. So those square foot reductions, and I'm gonna use round numbers, is about 5,000 square feet. So moving the building from about a 32,000 square foot building to a 27,000 square foot building. And in doing those things, again, total project cost, we get to this number, this 28 million number. But as you can see, it comes with some serious compromises. And I think I might have casually skipped over the fact that even the therapy pool was eliminated from this particular scheme to meet that number. Okay, so that is drastic, but it's an important exercise for us to move through to understand how we take the entirety of this project and look at it through the lens of the number 28 million. Well, we wanted to do another option that looked at compromises, that looked at hybrid approaches, that looked at the opportunities that the project itself inherently offers us, and what would that mean in terms of cost? So if option 3A was about getting to a number, option 3B was about understanding how we can get the most bang for your buck. So this option does a couple of things that are different than the previous. Instead of not doing anything to the clubhouse, we renovate it. We don't tear it down and build new, we renovate it. We do the same thing with the mini golf building. We don't tear it down, we renovate it. Now, there are costs associated with that, but they're not as big of costs as building new. But they're important upgrades for the lifespan of the site. I'm gonna get into the weeds just a tiny bit, but if you remember from presentations we've done in the past, the mini golf building is kind of in really rough shape. So there were movements to tear it down just from safety reasons, but we think we could renovate it. What's also interesting about option 3B is we bring back the upgrades to tennis, we bring back the upgrades to mini golf, we bring back the therapy pool, but we've maintained some of the building reductions. And these would need to be worked out specifically with those groups, but we think, given the program that has been discussed with us, that there are pathways forward to reduce the building in this kind of 5,000, again, I'm using round numbers, 5,000 square feet. So what was 28 million with option 3A, all of a sudden, and I am not saying this flippantly, I know these are important and money is an important part, but for another $1 million, you get a lot back. You get a lot of what the community has asked us to provide back. And so there's an interesting thing to consider here, this kind of hybrid approach where the wish list of tearing down all of the small elements and building anew are replaced with this idea of, well, let's look for strategic ways to renovate, to use what's existing, make best with what we have at certain areas, but understand where we probably have to build new. Things like the aquatics locker room that are so tied up in code issues, so tied up in functional issues that it would be very difficult to renovate that small building and have it work in a way that you all would find enjoyable as a space. I do want to say there is some constants throughout all of the options. The upgrades to the site were not changed. And the upgrades to the stormwater were not changed, and the parking were not changed. And the reason is A, it's very early to understand the exact impact of some of those things, so we want to be safe. We want to have the money there for something that is probably going to be kind of thrusted upon us by the county, which is things like storm retention and whatnot. But we also liked having this element of site area whole and intact because, again, it allows you to have Mountain View get renovated throughout its entire site, right? New landscape and hardscape, and it becomes that kind of place that you can come to and feel really proud of. That becomes a net positive for the local community and the real estate prices around. So those are some of the consistents across those options. And that was the exercise from a cost point of view. And I think there is a summation slide that you can start to see what it meant from option 3 as a total all-in cost. There's another important piece of that total number that is built in, and that's this idea of escalation, right? We know inflation and escalation is gonna happen, and we're probably still months and months out from breaking ground. So we need to have that number have escalation. There's also design contingency percentages in there as well, because again, we're just getting started. We don't know all of the nuts and bolts just yet. But I think this offers a good summation of the three options, the option 3 options, to confuse everyone just a little more, where you can see option 3A was about more dramatic cuts to scope to find a way to that number. And then option 3B was about looking for strategic opportunities to bring more program and scope back, but not necessarily revamp and re-up everything back to the original option 3. So I know we'll have time for Q&A at the end. I want to keep the presentation moving, and I will just offer this as I invite my business partner up, Eric Sterner, that we were also asked to explore this idea of fixed seating versus retractable seating as a financial issue, as a quality of life issue, as a performance issue. And I think we're going to come and have a lot of great data for everyone to kind of chew on about what it means to look at these different seating options from a performance space. So Eric's going to take that from here, and I appreciate the time.
All right, that was Act 1. We have 5 acts. This is Act 2. This is a tragedy. No. Okay. So Sorry. I guess it depends on how you look at it. All right, so I'm going to stand and tell you about seating. And the first thing I want to talk about is what retractable seating is not. And I think a lot of times we think about retractable seating and we think about stackable seats that go vertical and you can push them back and they'll go up against a wall. And while, yes, these seats up there are retractable, they are gymnasium retractable seats, and they are meant for maybe a 45-minute basketball game, and there are no cushions, and there's not great accessibility, and yes, they are cheaper, but when we speak to retractable seating, we are talking about theater retractable seating. One of the things that we learned a lot in our outreach with all of you was that you would like cushioned seats. You would like seats that are accessible to all. And that could mean that the seats are wider. That means that maybe the rows are further apart for people with accessibility or mobility issues that would like to kind of have the ability to sit anywhere. We'll talk a lot about that under accessibility. But I just want to make the point that when we are talking in this presentation going forward that this is not the retractable seating we are talking about. We are talking about theater retractable seating. And then in fixed seating, that's it's much more understandable. That's a seat that is fixed to the ground, that is permanent. So it is not movable, it's something that's fixed. And I also want to note that between both of these options, retractable theater seating and fixed seating, that they could exist in any of those three options that we just discussed. So whether we're reducing the square footage, we choose option 3, 3A, and 3B, those cleverly named options, that we are looking at retractable or fixed in any of those. So we just want to arm you with the data relative to seating. So what retractable seating are theater retractable seats are seats that are cushioned. They have armrests. The rise on them is still high. They're usually about 10 inches, or they split them by 5 inches, so 5-inch vertical rise on the step. And essentially, they're a lot more comfortable, right? With that, oftentimes they're automated, and you can see in the pictures there that they stack like a gymnasium retractable seating system. But what happens, and on the bottom right, you can actually see it, they actually flip up, they have armrests, and so you can imagine that the setup time is maybe not as easy as you see in gymnasiums where a person goes and just kind of pulls it out over time. They're usually mechanically done with switches. They take a bit longer, and we'll show you some imagery of what it looks like under the retractable seating in a bit. But just know that it's a much more involved retractable seating system than a gym. And they're a lot more comfortable too, which is good for everyone. Fixed seating is, if you've ever been to a movie theater, probably a lot of what we're looking at here. So what we would do is we would slope the concrete slab in the theater space to do what it needs to do, and we would fix those seats onto the slab. Sometimes you'll see, like in the top left, and probably better in your packet, you'll see that the actual accessibility route, which is on the top left, you can see the carpeted area, that doesn't have steps at all. That's actually just a gradual, accessible slope, and then you move into your rows of seating adjacent to that. Just know also that in fixed seating, there's a lot more customization that can happen relative to the layout. With fixed seating, like we saw in the last picture, and I'll go back to it, in every condition of retractable seating, you have essentially this block of seats that's all stuck together, and it's a system, and it's very fixed, not like fixed seating, but fixed in terms of what you get from the retractable system. Whereas in fixed seating, and we'll go through this a little bit more in the plans, but you can customize the layout, you can optimize the spacing. And one of the most important things that we heard from you again is this idea of accessibility. So one of the things that you can do with fixed seating that would be a bit more difficult with the retractable system, not saying it's impossible, but everything has a cost, and we'll talk about that. But just understand that with fixed seating, the layout is dictated by the design of how we lay out the floor, and a lot of these accessibility issues can be solved by a fixed seating option. a little bit more easier than it would be able to be done through retractable seating manufacturer systems. So just to kind of frame the difference between fixed seating and retractable seating, we want to talk about fixed seating as not being a flexible option, but we want to talk about it that it's a purpose-built solution for this room. And I'll get into that under the pretenses of accessibility. We'll talk about it in terms of cost. We'll talk about it in terms of this space, the square footage of the space, and how many people can fit into those seats. And then we'll also talk about daily operation and the value of that over the course of time. And then for retractable seating, we'll look at it not as a more efficient solution, but a strategic investment in flexibility. So inherently, retractable seating, the fact that you can fold it up is flexible, but we want to look at it through, again, these lenses of, is it the best future-oriented flexibility option for the community? We'll look at it in terms of what that flat floor capability actually is once we place the retractable seating in what will be the square footage allocated for this theater. We'll look at the cost of it and the complexity of the system, and then we'll look at basically how it will do over the course of time. So we'll be analyzing it through these two lenses, both fixed seating and retractable seating. But again, I don't want to think about it as just flexible versus non-flexible. We really want to look at it holistically and weigh a lot of these other options and thinking into these seatings. So a lot to discuss. We'll call this Act 3. Accessibility is our first prompt that we looked at, and so we're going to compare fixed seating and retractable seating against accessibility. So one of the things we learned from everybody when we did the outreach almost a year ago, but also in the smaller groups when we met with each of the user groups individually online through those video conference calls, is that accessibility was huge. And one of the guiding principles was inclusivity and accessibility. And one of the things that we learned is that with the seating, yes, we want cushions, but we also want for the layout of the space to afford people to have the option of where they get to sit. We don't want to just put all the accessible seating down front or in the back. We want to disperse that seating throughout the theater so everybody has an equal opportunity to sit where they want to sit. And we want to design that into the layout of the space. So let's go through fixed seating first. One of the things I already mentioned is that fixed seating is highly adaptable for ADA compliance. That just is inherent because we, as your architects, are designing the layout of the chairs versus purchasing a manufactured system through, again, a manufacturer of sorts who's building that retractable system. So we like the idea that in the accessibility realm, we have the ability to design in inherently the fixed seating option. Again, staying with fixed seating, it allows that dispersed wheelchair seating. Now I'm going to get a little bit more into that in the next slide in terms of why this is important to building code. One of those things we can't get over, we have to meet code. And so I'm going to explain that a little bit more on the next slide. One of the other options in fixed seating that we really like is that it simplifies the circulation, right? We know that we need wider widths. We know that every moment counts. God forbid anything ever happens, like an emergency or what have you, during an event. We want to make sure that we design it so that help can get to you, and again, every second matters. So how can we design the right size solution to this community, and then at the same time to be comfortable day to day? And then the last item here is that, and I'll get to it on subsequent slides, but in fixed seating, we won't require an elevator. And the reason why is because, again, I talked about dispersing accessible seating. Well, you can imagine in some of those retractable systems, when you're sitting at the top, you have to get to the top. And if you're in a wheelchair, you'll need a lift of sorts. So one of the things that's really great about fixed seating, and also from a cost perspective with the slope that we would have with fixed seating, is it would not require an elevator. Okay. So retractable seating, obviously it's almost the inverse of this, but let's talk about some of the positives as well. Retractable seating does limit our accessible seating locations. So again, we talked about this as being a system that you purchase. That system is fixed. It is always going to have, for the most part, a vertical rise and a step, and you're going to ascend up those steps and sit at your seat. It will stack. It moves against the wall, but again, designing in those accessible seats to be right-sized with different aisle widths, different depths, is very, very difficult and costly in a system that is manufactured. So just keep that in mind as we're looking at that in subsequent slides. The next thing is that ADA requires dispersed accessible positions in venues over 300 seats. It's actually 299, but we have 300 in our venue. So again, what that means is we need accessible seats at the top. So it's not that it's impossible, but we would have to add an elevator with the retractable seating option, again, to have people have equal accessibility, both at the top of the venue, the bottom of the venue, and the middle of the venue. So equal seating for all. And then the last thing here is that it creates circulation and egress constraints. Again, it's a fixed system, so that area where we do have the retractable seating, again, we have to figure out, and again, you can do this, but again, cost, and we'll go through this, but finding that middle ground of creating that ability to have a flexible design of retractable seating that allows for the accessibility, allows for the depth between the rows, and have all that in that fixed system will require a custom retractable seating option and purchase. So let's dive a little deeper. These two drawings are sections. So basically, if we were to cut a building, right? We were to cut a building in half, you'd be looking at what we're looking at, and it's a section of a building. So it's showing the vertical height of the space. I don't think this has a laser. Maybe it does. Ugh. Oh, look at that, a laser. This is great. You know, my parents have cats, and I love to play with the cats with the lasers. So this is, yeah, anyway. Okay, so on the left-hand side, this is an example of the fixed seating section. So again, cutting a building essentially in half like a slice of bread. So we're looking at, you know, a vertical section of a building. On the right side, you'll note the retractable seating option. Now, maybe the first thing you'll notice when you look at these two things is that the one on the right is taller. That's correct. Whoever said that first gets a sticker. I don't have a sticker, but anyway, you'll note that it's taller. And the reason it's taller is because the retractable seating that you stack against that wall is inherently a higher vertical rise between each row, which could be seen as a good thing, right? You get sight lines that put you up higher so you can see the stage and look down on the stage. On the left-hand side, the fixed seating side, you'll note that it's much lower. And the reason that is because there's a few things. One, here we're sloping up gradually and having those seats aligned on that gradual slope, which again is good for accessibility because we want to minimize steps. We want to have nice ramps. And then on the back side, maybe we're tiering the seating, but still having the slopes. But at the same time, your vertical rise to the back seat in the room is significantly less. So why does this matter? Well, it matters because, again, like I mentioned, we need accessibility equal in all areas of the seating required by code 299 seats. And so what we heard from you is we want to not only meet the minimum accessibility demands, but we want to do better than that, knowing our community. And dispersing accessible seating to all areas so anybody who needs accessible seating can sit where they choose rather than be dictated to a front area is the difference between fixed and retractable. Retractable would require us to have people sitting down in the front, and through the use of an elevator, you could sit in the back. We are not able, because you need to vertically get up, essentially 5-inch riser steps, to get to the middle of our retractable seating area. So that's the big difference between fixed and retractable. It's a lot of that height, it's a lot of where accessibility can occur, and at the same time, we're trying to meet code and accessibility where adding an elevator, while possible, adds cost. So what's that worth? And then in fixed seating, having the disbursement through sloping the floor. Sloping the floor has costs, but what is the value net gain on the back end? So just understanding those two principles between fixed and retractable seating. The operational impact is one that you pay over the course of time, right? That's your RCSC staff. That's, okay, we build it, we choose one. We're gonna do retractable or we're gonna do fixed. And we have to pay for this, not what Brad just presented in terms of the upfront cost. We have to pay for that for the next 15, 30, 45, 60, 100 years. So what's that going to cost? How can we look at this into the future so that we can plan the best option not only for today but for tomorrow? Fixed seating, and we will go through costs more in depth under the cost section, Act 4 later. But before we get there, fixed seating, I will just state, has the lowest ongoing cost. And the reason why is because the retractable seating is, again, a system. That system is kind of like a piece of furniture that has a warranty. It's like buying a car. It's always great the first year, and then it seems like when your warranty ends, it's when all the problems occur. Well, it's very similar with a retractable seating system. We'll go into that a lot more in depth here in future slides as well. But just understand that there's going to be a difference between having a highly specific fixed seat that's upholstered, and yes, we're going to have cleaning costs, we're going to have costs to have lighting and all those other things. But right now, we're just talking about seats. So when those fixed seats are set and they're on that slope slab, that's it. We're not setting it up before the event. We're not having to retract and then put back the seating. It is set. So we're not having a cost in that manner. The other thing that it does from an operational standpoint is it is what it is. It's fixed seating on a slope floor. So it's very predictable in terms of its scheduling. It's essentially a slope floor auditorium built for tiered seating with cushiony, comfortable seats. So again, it really minimizes the staff need over time. The retractable seating, however, while it does add operational burden, RCSC staff has to fold it out, fold it back in. It offers the flexibility like we talked about before. So it does create that area where you are creating a flat floor, but you have to operationally have maintenance come in and retract it. So let's talk about that a little bit as well. We did some research on the theater retracting systems. Almost all of them today are not ones, again, because of how heavy they are. They're really heavy. As you can imagine, those seats are not light. And once you have 300 or 400 of them and you try to wheel them out, even Arnold Schwarzenegger's not going to get them out. So what you need to do is you have them all mechanically done. And someone goes in and they press a button, and essentially over the course of 30 minutes, the seats are able to come out. But you're not done there. You have to flip up the seats and one by one go in and make the seats go vertical because they go horizontal to fit flat up against the wall. How long would that take? We estimate with 400 seats and looking into these systems that it would take 2 hours to set up and 2 hours to take down. So for each event, it's about 4 hours. So we'll go into numbers on that a little bit later, but just understand that that is a reality with retractable seating, retractable theater seating that we are looking into. All right, Tom's going to come up for act. I don't even know where we are. This is usually when I fall asleep during performances, so I never make it past 3.
We'll call it Act 2B here, because we're still talking operational impact. So one of the things that we wanted to look at, because we're looking at retractables so that you could have flexibility, could have potential for a flat floor space, how much flat floor space is needed in Sun City generally. So what we did is we took all of the calendars of all of the performance groups across Sun City. So not just the players that are currently at Mountain View, but we looked at the Bell Club, the chorus, the concert band, all those sorts of folks that could potentially use performance space like this, the movies, those sorts of things. And we combined it into a single calendar. So if you would imagine that all of those performance groups start using a Mountain View facility, what would it look like on your calendars? And what we are seeing here are total numbers of events per month. And you can see in the middle of the summer, it really drops off. So not a lot of folks are in town and performance groups are more dormant. But in the heavy winter months where we are now, you're up in the 30 to 40 events per month. Now that may be 2 events a day, it may be 1 a day. And this is both performances as well as rehearsals and other needs that the clubs need to be in that space preparing for their events. So you can see that, 30 to 40 events in the winter months, that's a lot to accommodate in a single month. So how many additional flat floor spaces would be, uses would be available for you during those heavy months? Now, the other side of that is if we're moving some of these groups out of the facilities that they're currently in, say Sundial here, or some of, Bells are in another facility, some things like that, that could open up flat floor availability in some of the existing flat floor spaces that you do have. In addition, we also looked at, because there is still some availability, especially in the summer months, are there opportunities to rent out a facility that has seating in a fixed way like this? So you can see in the summer months, you could look at summer clubs for kids and graduations and those sorts of things. I know schools are always looking for venues to host things like that. So I think there is also opportunities, less so in the winter months, but certainly some opportunities in some of like December. There's some opportunity that's a little bit lower as the holidays approach. So I think looking at that, weighing how much flat floor space is needed in Sun City broadly versus a more dedicated fixed theater seating space.
Okay, so the next one is user experience. So again, we're going to be comparing fixed seating and retractable seating. We can go through this one pretty quickly because we talked about a lot of these two things. But just know that with fixed seating, one of the things that we really begin to understand is that it's robust, right? It's attached to the concrete, it's sloped, the chairs are usually of a more premium quality than even the retractable seat options in that system. So they're solid. They have armrests. They're very cushiony. The retractable seating, if you've ever gone up a bleacher set in a gymnasium, one of the things you also notice is that it's hollow. So there's noise associated with that when you're walking it up. The rails are just as they are in a gymnasium. They're going to rattle a little bit. And again, we already mentioned the accessibility options not being as present in a user experience through the concert. So just the difference there is just know that fixed seating is a lot quieter and solid. Retractable, again, because it does move, is not as solid. The idea of performance quality begins a really interesting conversation. And again, that really becomes interesting with fixed seating because there is so much customization that we can do relative to the layout. So we can design in the optimized views, whether that's in plan and how we see the stage, or it's vertically in those slopes of how we have that height vertically that we can see the stage. And then ultimately, too, we can make more malleable our fixed walls around the perimeter of our actual performing arts space to allow more customization, right? So we're optimizing our solution to performance. With retractable seating, one of the things I mentioned before is that we do have this between rows, 10-inch minimum rise. And so they often split that between two 5-inch stairs. And so what that actually provides is a great vertical sort of rise over the course of those retractable seats. And so you get up higher faster. We're not proposing 5-inch stairs on our fixed seating option. We're proposing slopes and obviously accessibility. So yes, we get better visibility, but one of the things that also does is it's very rigid rows. So they're very straight. They're not curved. They're just a rigid, straight row. So we would have to take into consideration that in our overall layout of the building. So again, just a little bit more customized on fixed, less customized on retractable seating. I wanted to show some photos of exactly what those retractable seats look like underneath too, because I think it was surprising to us just knowing all that goes on. And please look in your packet as well. If you can't see, that image on the left is a plan, so that's essentially looking down at the area with all the goodies that go into having that retractable seating system retract. right? So there's these gliders, there's power, there's wheels, there's control boxes and lighting fixtures back there for the maintenance, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff. So know when we're talking about these retractable systems that it's bearing up against a wall with all of these sorts of things happening within this cavity, and all that stuff is underneath. So a lot different than the wood bleachers we had in a high school gymnasium. Again, this is just an image. This is a plan and a section through those retractable seating systems. We really just wanted to show again that there's a lot going on underneath those systems and a lot that goes on to actually making them work day in and day out. So again, thinking about all those mechanisms and whatnot, that's one of the reasons why they require every year for a specialist to come out and check everything that it's working and making sure that it's going to function for you. So what we did is we looked at between fixed seating and retractable seating. We just wanted to look at a general layout of, and this is again not what we're proposing in terms of the actual fit out of the new performing arts space, but it is in terms of size a 400-seat theater. And so we wanted to see what that layout would look like relative to the stage area that we would have and how many seats we could actually fit given a 4,700 square foot area, which is again about what we're proposing right now for your theater space. And what we noticed is that with fixed seating, we are able to fit about 400 seats in there, right? So Brad went through his options before. He talked about having 420 to 380 seats typical in our space. So in a 4,700 square foot theater, we get about 400 seats. I talked a lot already about the fixed nature of retractable seats. And we really wanted to understand how much seating we could get with those fixed systems in the same amount of square footage, 4,700 square feet. And through that, we learned that we can get 130 seats. So one of the things that teaches us is that if we go with a retractable option, we have to grow the square footage of the building to remain present and best in that optimal viewing zone. And the optimal viewing zone is these triangles in blue. So if you're buying a ticket, you want to be in this center area. That's the best viewing zone. These are usually the cheaper seats, and then over here, the cheapest. So again, we're trying to lay it out with the most optimized zone. So one of the other things that we did is we laid this out over a sundial because we're here right now, and we thought it would be interesting to show you what 130 seats would look like in this center space. So you'll note that the center space that we are showcasing right here is where we're seated. The stage is behind me, and the doors are there. And obviously, what we're talking about is putting a retractable seating system within the visibility view lines of the stage, the optimal viewing location. And in a system, based off of the dimensions of these systems that you buy, we would get 130 seats in that optimal viewing window. And then, of course, we would just have, like you have here today, the seats in the front that you would set up before the event and you would place. So just know that it takes up a lot more area than you might think, like fixed seating, to have a retractable seating system. The other thing that I want to note is, and again, you can go back to that plan drawing that I just had up, but that wall that needs to be created right here, this boldened C-shaped wall, has to be there permanently for a retractable system. Now we have doors here, which is why it's not up against tight to that wall, and we need to keep the doors in sundial because we need to exit and we need to meet code and we need to do all these good things. But we would essentially be creating a vertical 12-foot tall wall about 8 feet off of those doors so that our retractable system could be placed. So that's why it was placed there if you're wondering why it's not up against the wall. So just know that right sizing it into sundial also comes with challenges. And again, you would be creating a fixed permanent wall with a ton of electrical in there in about a third in the way of your space. Okay, so let's go through cost. So I'll go through this relatively quickly because I think going into all the line items and the numbers is going to glaze over anybody's eyes. But I think I want to talk about maybe the most important thing, which is that there's an upfront cost, then there's a cost over time. So we'll go over the upfront cost, and we reached out to manufacturers for fixed seating. We'll start with fixed seating first, and we'll look at it through the lens of having either 384 seats or 420 seats. Those options that are included in option 3A, option 3B, and option 3 are, within that realm of seating. So with fixed seats, we're looking at about $734 per chair installed. I know, it's a lot. And so the cost for that, for 384 seats to 420 seats, is right around $300,000. One of the things that you get with fixed seating, however, is you get a nice 25-year lifespan. That's not a warranty, that's a lifespan. There are warranties on all the fabrics and whatnot. And I discussed before how there's minimal maintenance for the RCSC staff. Okay, let's look at retractable seating as a comparison. Again, it's a system that's manufactured. It's a system that it's a furniture piece, essentially, but it's one that you design with them and they ship it here and then you have to install it. So again, a lot less customized. From the quotes we got, without the ADA modifications, and this is an important point, this is without customization to create the ADA accessibility needs that you guys need, meaning wider seats and wider depth between row and row. So that's none of that. That's just standard seats. It's $1,500 per chair installed. And so again, your baseline, you're looking at $600K for those. With those, because it's like a car instead of a fixed seat which you own, it's a 10 to 15-year limited warranty. So know that that comes with maintenance, that comes with people needing to come out every year to understand those mechanisms, those gears, understand your control, understand the power, all that good stuff. There's professionals that come out and they look at those systems and make sure it's all working. Because the last thing you want to have happen before your big show is for that seat to not be able to come out and work for you that night. So I mentioned the $1,500 chair. We also reached out to the manufacturers for what would it take to get these things to be accessible for our community. We heard they need accessibility. They need those depths. They need the comfort of your chairs. They need wider widths. Well, that's super custom, they said. That's $2,700 per chair. That's a lot. So, okay, let's start doing the math. We'll start on the left again, fixed seating. For a ROM cost, let's just call it 420 seats. We're gonna go with the bigger number here, the more seats. So that's $308,000 for the initial upfront. And we also know that that concrete, doing the tiered concrete, does have a cost associated with it, and it's about $100,000. So with the minimum maintenance that's required, we're comfortable saying that the net present value, or the value over the course of time, in this case, we're doing 15 years to own these fixed seats in your auditorium space, will cost $408,000. Now, let's go to retractable seating. The net present value on that, we utilized it with the ADA modifications, since that's something we need here. It's not something we're going to ignore and not do. So let's take that as an example. Same thing, 420 seats. That's $1.1 million. We mentioned before, lower cost than the concrete, but still a cost on the low end. We need that elevator. We need to have people at the top of those retractable seats. That's $80,000. And then between those two things, every single year, there's about a fee between $3K on each, an annual elevator and an annual retractable system service fee, because again, we have these specialists coming in to check on those two items, the elevator and the retractable seat system. The net present value on a retractable seating system over the course of 15 years is $1.3 million. So almost a 3X, it's over 3X on a retractable seating system. So to recap, over a 15-year life cycle, essentially retractable seating is a nearly $900,000 premium. Again, what's it worth to you? So we're pointing out that it can be done, but it adds square footage. That's not allocated in the square footage of the theater yet. It's a higher RCSC cost over the course of time. What is that staff cost going to be in 15 years versus today? We noted accessibility time and time again. And one of the recommendations, again, we'll make is that when time matters in accessibility, during one of those instances where you really don't want to have to deal with something like an emergency, but it does happen, do we want the more customized option in that fixed seating where we have wider rows and wider depth between the seats and more comfort, or do we want the flexibility? And so our recommendation from the fiscal responsibility, the accessibility and inclusivity, the ease and access, really that efficiency and effectiveness, your guiding principles is that we would utilize the fixed seating method moving forward into the theater space. So again, it provides that dignity and ease of access. It's quieter and more comfortable. We can customize and optimize a room that works well every day and not just occasionally. We lose out on that flexibility, but what we gain is that predictable operation and cost for the community. We know what that upfront cost is. We can contain that overall net present value. So based on the resident use patterns, on accessibility, equity, and day-to-day comfort, and long-term stewardship, the fixed seating is the recommended solution for Mountain View. So again, all we're trying to do is we're trying to provide options back to the board. We're trying to work with you and really kind of arm ourselves with data on both the realities of code, the realities of what we've heard, the realities of systems, and we're trying to establish a new intentional legacy for Mountain View. We've all been waiting for this. We have the pictures of the past on the left. We really want to bring this Mountain View site back up to one code, but at the same time back up to what it was in its prime. And we want to build on Del Webb's vision and strengthen the site's ability to support comfort, connection, and the quality of life for today's residents and those who follow. So with that, I think we're opening it up to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We good? Yes, okay, so thank you very much. That was, I hope, answered a lot of questions you might have had. It probably raised some questions that you didn't come in with as well. So let's start with the ability for you, if you've pulled a number from the back there, so we'll start calling those in order. You'll have 3 minutes to come and explain your question. We'll try to get good responses to that. We have, just kind of keep in the back of your mind, the building does close at 9 o'clock. So I'm hoping that we'll be done by then. But in any event, I hope that we are able to address as many of these questions that you might have so that the board can take that information into consideration as well as what we just heard when it begins to deliberate this later this month. So what is the first?
Number 87, please.
Hi, Tom Swinson, 135906. That was a great presentation, by the way. Really impressed. One thing that wasn't covered was the aesthetics of fixed seating versus the bleachers, the retractable seating. So theater is an experience, and it involves the building itself and appreciating it. So I want to bring that up. I had some questions along the way. I don't know what facility means, like number 8 on that one of those first slides. Public toilets are important. Thinking about the toilets or whatever, the building for the mini golf, I would think public toilets would be important. Where they're accessible. When you reduce the amount of square footage on the theater, did that involve any of the utility areas behind the theater? That's another question. I have no idea what I was saying there. Some of these you covered, so I can take them off. One of the big uses that I understood for a flat floor was for dancing. And that takes a special floor, of course. So you can't just have a concrete floor and say, hey, have at a dance there. So you'd have to put in a floor that people could dance on, and that might get marred by the machinery. Okay. System for walkers and wheelchair storage. I mean, you talk about wheelchairs and lifts and all that, but you got all these walkers that we have to deal with at the theater. This is something I thought of just off the top. We need extra safety lighting backstage, the blue lights for getting around backstage because people can't see as well who are older. I want to continue to push the concept from the first architects of the ADA plus, that just meeting ADA does not necessarily serve our community, but I hear that in your presentation too. The traffic flow during intermissions would be really different on the retractable seating. So we can't really get people in and out in 15 minutes to the restrooms or for snacks, whatever. The vertical rise seems like a real problem because all the tech people are going to be way up. I mean, I don't know where you put the tech people in a stage like that, or in a seating like that. Wow, I did it. That was it. Those are my points. But thank you. I love what you're saying, and I really support you. Bye.
There were two comments that I'll just address really quickly. When we say facility in terms of program, we're referring to the program that houses folks who are working there, the maintenance people. So like that program included a break room. It included an office. It included those types of things. And you had one more cost question, and now I'm drawing a
Were
blank.
the utility areas adjusted?
Yes, thank you. Yes, when we looked at building reductions, although we haven't been able to talk specifically with all the user groups about it, we did look for reductions across the entirety of the program to find a kind of equitable way to look at it and to make sure none of the spaces actually became unusable or not functional anymore. But that's, again, from our experience and would be vetted through all of the groups who would use the space.
And there's one thing I want to add to this, because I'd asked when we met with the architects, you know, with retractable seating, how much space on the floor would he actually open it up? And if you saw me beforehand, I was pacing off it. The area that's going to be filled up that would be opened up is going to be about as long as the rows are from one side to one side, going back to where the tables start turning in the other direction. That's about the size of space that's actually going to open up. So even though it opens up some flat floor space, it ends up not being a very big area. Number 88, please.
Hi, Greg Engstrom, 37093. One of our members handed me this. So the only question I have, and you maybe you've answered it, but in the drawings, it was showing what we call our shop, the area behind the pool. Is that in 3B or 3A going to stay then? Okay, would that shop
That was
stay?
one of the program reduction options that we looked at. Again, to be vetted with the users, but we could potentially move some of the long-term storage that you asked for into those spaces that are near the pool equipment area. That was something we looked at as a means to find square footage reductions for the building.
Okay, but would that mean tearing down the shop, the building that is there right now?
It would mean, yes, replacing it with a very utilitarian kit building.
Okay, all right. So that doesn't help us for the construction period, those 2 years, someplace to put everything that we have.
And again, we can
Yeah.
assess if that building is worth saving and if that is even something that the folks using the space would be
Right.
able to operate with.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation, and I really appreciate the way that you gave us the option of retractable seating, but told us that we'd be idiots to take it, so thank you very much.
And number 89, please.
I think I'm redundant. I'm BJ Martindale, and I'm 174665, if I can read upside down. I just wanted to talk about retractable seating. I've had some experience with that in other places, and it's just plain scary. It rattles and it shakes and it makes noise, and thank goodness you're not recommending it. Thank you.
Number 90, please.
Happy New Year. Great presentation. Thank you. My name is John Fast. My number is 153253. I really enjoyed how you got into the technical elements of all the things that, that you guys go through to make a decision or make a recommendation, I should say, for fixed versus retractable seating. One of the things that I've been involved in this project for 5 years, unfortunately. The problem we always had with Mountain View was accessibility, the parking lots. Because there's two disjointed parking lots, somebody's going to have to come from the back all the way across the campus. And beyond that, the parking lot that's there starts at the building and goes away from it. So those were the kind of the two flies in the ointment, if you will, when we talked about accessibility of Mountain View. I guess the other thing I would just wonder, have you been asked what modifications could be made to this facility, Sundial, to accommodate all the performance groups, but particularly the players? Thank you.
Yeah, so to answer your final question there, we have not been asked to look at sundials as the performance space, but we have looked at it as if you could put seating in it. That's the extent of what we looked at. Is that fair?
Well,
Tom's looking at me like I said something crazy. So.
No, but, so we spent 6 months talking to the members, and the feedback that came back was pretty loud and pretty strong, that they wanted to see the investment at Mountain View, that they wanted to see the PAC, and that they wanted the PAC to be at Mountain View.
Yes, that is true.
So when we came back with those, or when you guys came back with these member initiated alternatives, they were all at Mountain View. And so when that vote was taken to use alternative 3, that basically has foreclosed the option here, that at Sundial, that the PAC is part of the plan, and that would be constructed at Mountain View.
Yes, and I will say, we did revisit the community outreach responses to basically refill our memory. And of the 6,000 plus responses, we received 3 votes for it being at Mountain View, or at Sundial. So yes, it never made it onto the priority list.
Okay, was the parking a concern that John was referencing?
So the parking is, from a code point of view, is not a concern. There is enough parking to support a performing arts center and all of the other things that are being asked for at Mountain View. And we have the opportunity now to design the layouts of the existing parking to make sure that ADA plus is met and that we have appropriate ADA parking spaces at appropriate entry points throughout the facility. And I do think that this question of east and west parking is an interesting architectural planning problem that we have started to look at, and we are looking at ways to make a stronger east-west connection so that both the east and the west parking serve as viable entry points onto the campus and have a same level of security that the campus requires. So that is an issue that we're exploring in depth and we'll want to solve for you as we move forward.
Okay.
Number 91, please.
I'm Jan Murphy, and I have to look this up because I just moved from Sun City to Sun City. I am 182509 now. I have 2 questions. I would love to see perhaps the fixed seating have a little bit more rise to it for better vision. And I'm thinking maybe they think the ramps are going to be too steep. Maybe that's why it's not playing out that way. So that's my first reservation. I see how tall the building is with the retractable seats and how much shorter it is. And I'm just wondering if you can make it a little bit more rise with the fixed seating. So that's point number one. And point number two, I don't know how much is built in for backstage, wings, rehearsal rooms. I mean, that is very much a part of a performance. We have 18 people backstage right now for collective dating. You don't want to even know what is going on back there behind there. So that there have to be some spaces where people can be. And I see the theater, but I don't know what the wings are and that kind of stuff. So I'm just curious if that's even, well, I assume there's room for it, but I hope it's adequate room.
Yes, to your second point, yes, we are absolutely considering with our theater consultant to have all those ancillary support spaces that support the theater and space. As to the rise, when you do fixed seating, you have the opportunity to do what they call a parabolic shape, where it's fairly low slope up front, and as you get towards the back, it gets steeper to help those sight lines along as you go. So that will be looked at as we get into it.
Number 92, please.
Gary Ozier, 109025. First question, is there any data available that supports building a 384 or 420 seat theater? Secondly, could we get costs on the different elements that you presented there? That would give us a ability to actually weigh the different elements, okay? I personally brought 2 companies to Sundial and Mountain View to evaluate how many retractable seats they could get in. The Mountain View, you could get 420.
Gary?
What?
If you could look into the microphone, everybody can hear.
I'm sorry. I looked at, there's 420 seats that could be put in Mountain View and 598 here, not 120. Okay. And that was with a company that came and measured and everything. I even have drawings, okay? Now, they all said that their seating meets ADA requirements, okay? Meets code. What I'm confused about the fixed seating is, how wide are the aisles gonna have to be to deal with a wheelchair anywhere? It's gonna have to be pretty darn wide. So that could easily end up, if you're gonna do it for the whole place, you could easily end up with maybe half the seating that you're thinking about. There was some things that I didn't understand, but I'll come back for those. How's that?
Anybody want to take a shot at data and cost breakdowns? And we may add something else at the end.
Sure. To the first point about data, again, I would just, reference back the multi-month-long community outreach effort that we underwent, and there was a very strong want from the community to have a performing auditorium-like space at Mountain View as probably the main data point. Hearing from the community, that's what they were hoping to see there. The issue regarding accessibility and retractable, yes, you could fill this space with more retractable seating. I do know that the study that we underwent was looking at retractable seating in those optimal view areas. Sundial is a very long space, and the more you get out to the wings, the less that view becomes pertinent to someone to enjoy a show. And so we were just looking at those optimal views. In terms of the width of aisles, one of the classic planning strategies for fixed seating regarding accessibility is that the middle aisle becomes a wider avenue for people not only to get in and out of the space, but also to provide middle house, middle row seating for those with different mobility needs. So in this idea of dispersed ADA, you have front row seating, middle row seating, and back row seating. And so that disbursement is met plus. And so that middle row becomes a key moment to deal with slopes, parabolic arches, sight lines, but also giving you that very broad avenue that allows for that strategic dispersed placement of ADA. So we've used that strategy in the past very, very effectively.
And I want to kind of echo one of the things that Gary said. When we started out talking about the Mountain View elements, we were talking about 300 to 350 seats. And now we're going up to 384 to 420. I'm just a little bit concerned at how large the building has become and the number of seats there. So I can understand Gary's concerns, and I echo them. Gary, can you come back to your question at the end of, okay. Okay, one question? No.
Real quick, Gary.
Very quick.
We need to keep moving. There's a lot of folks here, so.
I didn't get an answer to my, is there any data? Secondly, I thought I understood what you said was that you could have any seat in the house accessible by ADA.
No.
Okay, well then I misunderstood what you put up there.
Okay.
Number 93, please.
Gary, I would, excuse me, Susan, I would say we spent 6 months gathering data, and I think they went through that pretty thoroughly in the first dozen slides. And if it wasn't the data you were specifically looking for, I think that data, it probably exists, but we didn't hire Gary Osier. And I really applaud your passion and tenacity and desire to see the right things done here. But we hired these guys as experts in this field to check these things out for us. And while we want to hear your inputs and opinions, we do need to put some consideration and faith in the experts here as to what they found talking to our residents and their experts as to what can be done or not done safely in the current facilities. Susan, go ahead.
Susan Bjork, 112-650. This actually wasn't my number, it was on the table. I think John was going to use it, so I decided to pick it up. Because after hearing Tom talk about all the wheelchairs that we're going to have to deal with, it prompted me to think about something that has not been answered yet. And that is one of the reasons that we are trying to improve these facilities. They've been neglected for a long time. It's about time that they be renovated. But we are many, many years beyond when it should have been done. And now we're starting to think about the economics of things and how are we going to turn over the homes and what is going to attract the new generation to Sun City. And what I'd like to know is, you know, we invest in this, what kind of research was done relative to the need of a theater for the new generation coming in? Because we all know that the age group is going to turn over, and this is what's going to keep the community viable, is to make sure that we have facilities that are going to attract the new generation. And that's where I think we're a little bit behind the 8 ball here. But just interesting because you're going to do what you want to do anyway. And I understand you're saying it's not for the players, but that's all we see coming up. I mean, it should be for the entire community. And we see the players really a predominant force and asking for all these different things that Tom came up and asked for. So that's my only concern as one of the younger members in this community. Thank you.
Brad, go ahead.
Yes, to that point, and it's, and again, we appreciate all of the feedback tonight. But there does seem to sometimes forget the other 6 acres of this site. And we have heard from your community that, yes, while a space for music and theater and lectures is going to be great, we also heard expand the fitness, and we've done that. Give us better aquatics, and we've done that. Give us more pickleball courts. That was a very contentious argument. But the younger generation wanted those types of sport courts. And so the decision was made to do that, to provide upgrades in mini golf and tennis. So I do want the community to understand that as we, your designers, we look at Mountain View holistically as a varied campus of activity that offers so many opportunities and great things to do. While yes, tonight we did speak a lot about seating, it was an issue that needed to be addressed. And so yes, tonight was a lot about seating, but the majority of our thinking is about the holistic view of the campus and all of the different programs that Mountain View can provide.
Okay, really quick. This is where the individual costs of each of the items would come into play, because I know that mini golf folks ask for sunshades, and that will have to be reduced if we want to stick to the budget or go $1 million over. Pickleball asks for at least some covering, but we're reducing that because we're spending the amount of money we are spending on the theater, and that's the point to be made.
Number 94, please.
Tad Daughters, 117436. Just a data point for Jerry. I was present when we squeezed 500 seats into the existing Mountain View and had sold out performances for a musical.
Number 95.
Perhaps that number has.
Number 96. Okay.
Good evening. Candy Ruggiero, 157, 480. And thank you very much for the presentation tonight. It was very enlightening. I want to preface my comments My sister,
Candy, can you talk
Still?
into the microphone, please? That way other people can hear you.
is that better? Oh, whoa. You can tell I'm not used to getting up here. I wanted to preface my comments with the fact that my sister literally lives at that house that's right on the corner across from Mountain View. She can literally walk across the street to Mountain View, but her husband is in a permanent wheelchair. So she doesn't go over there to use the facilities. So I actually changed my mind going from the retractable seating to the fixed seating. I think that's going to be more accessible to people in the wheelchairs. I would strongly recommend to keep the therapy pool in there. And also, as you're looking at the fitness center, she couldn't use the fitness center over there for therapy for him because they couldn't fit the wheelchair in there. So I'd like to seriously have you consider the ADA accessibility involved in the fitness center as well. And thank you for the presentation. It was excellent. Thank you.
Candy. Good, because I forgot. Number 97, please.
Hi, I'm Jim Balk, and the number is 173966. And I would like to speak on behalf of considering the movable seating space, because my wife and I recently had a chance to go to a theater in northern Arizona in Snowflake, where they have a community college. It's a Southwest Community College, Pioneer College. And they have a theater there that we attended a show, and it seats in a movable fashion 300 people. And we enjoyed the show there very much. And BJ, the seats don't rattle. They were quite and very much more comfortable than what we're having to deal with for the last 50 years. So I would like to see that as a serious consideration for the around 300 seating arrangement.
Thank you, sir.
Number 98, please.
Good evening. I'm Kurt Holub, 179606. And the various three plans, the middle one eliminating the therapy pool, just kind of boggles my mind. And that you go to any hotel that has a pool, they have a therapy pool or a hot tub. Like, I can't imagine not having that with a pool. Secondly, I like the idea of a nice auditorium. My wife and I have gone to some of the plays, and it's kind of weird sitting on a chair. I'm amazed we haven't had something decent for a long time already. And I'm wondering on the 400 capacity, that sounds neat. My wife and I have attended some of the Wednesday night tribute concerts. And they're awesome. But there again, you end up looking at the screens because there's no elevation. You can't see the stage as nice as you'd like. Now, maybe someone here could tell us how many they have at those concerts. It'd be nice if we could, even if we paid a little bit more to have them do 2 performances, probably people might be willing to pay a little more to have nice seating to watch a concert like that. I would hope that with fixed seating in particular, that those could be done there. Yes. That's the plan. Yeah, because that's going to be awesome. That if you get the right sound system in there and so forth, that's going to be a big thing. And someone said about the younger people coming here, they go to concerts, they expect something that's decent.
Just out of curiosity, Mike, do you have an idea of how many people we get when we have concerts here?
Am I on? Oh, there we go. Capacity is 1,260. And the wheels are already clicking if I have this building and we could do better concerts. But 1,260 is our capacity in this place.
Is that, do we sell out the concerts to come here?
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
Wow. Anything on live stream, by the way?
Yeah, I have 2.
Okay, why don't we take one of those? And
Okay. Chris Light, member number 153584. Is there any covered parking? On the drawings of the location, what is the white space where the existing building is now? And does the new design go all the way back to existing homes?
Can you repeat the question in its individual parts, please?
Is there any covered parking?
So yes, right now, the parking on the east that is covered, we would not have to remove those covers. We could just re-asphalt around them. So that could remain as is, again, being fiscally responsible. If covering additional parking is warranted and wanted, we would look into that for you and understand the costs and implications of it.
Okay, second question. On the drawings of the location, what is the white space where the existing building is now?
Not sure which building they might be
Yeah, I was going to
referring
try to answer that, but I didn't know.
The one white space we're seeing on the drawings might be the area where the solar hot water system was. And so that is just left as a kind of blank area currently.
All right. And does the new design go all the way back to existing homes?
So in terms of what exists now and what we are proposing, the main building would move farther south than what is currently there now, but the adjacency would be a golf course and golf course parking lot. No other improvements would be closer to any building or home that already exists.
But the physical confines of the center are going to be just as they are right now.
Yes, we are not going outside the property line of the existing center.
Do you have one more?
One more.
Then let's try and wrap those up then.
All right, Gene Totten, 148753. How much money for just the pack and how much for the whole Mountain View project?
I love Gene.
So I know this comment of each individual piece's price has come up. We knew that if we went through that tonight, it would be a very long evening. I will say that those individual price points are available on our original presentation that is available on YouTube, and you can see those there. I am going to be using my memory, but my understanding is that the building currently from a conceptual design cost is about $560 a square foot. I can't do the math in front of you now, but I know all of you are capable of doing that very easy math. So 560 times 16,000, depending on the option, times, yeah, so almost $9 million. For the 16,000 square foot performance auditorium.
Number 99, please. Number 100. I guess, are you 100 or are you going back to 0?
00.
00 it is.
I think that means 100. Sorry.
No worries.
I was up here, I'm sorry. Matt Grunauer, 166425. I was up here once before, months ago. Remember, please, you can't please all the people all the time. My opinion is option 3B. It gives everything and reduces a little bit of square footage. I believe that plan makes the majority, not everybody, not all, happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 base 29. Number 1.
Good to be number 1. Lori Ellingson, 133335. I agree that the best option is 3B, but I also feel that there are other options that haven't been considered that would be even better. And the problem with building a theater is the limited amount of clubs that can use it. If we have 382 seats to 402 seats, that's not big enough for the piano club, not big enough for the Sun City Orchestra, not big enough for a lot of the other clubs. It would require them to do more than one performance. And too small for, or too large for the movies. I attend the movies on a regular basis at Mountain View. The majority of number of people that attend are 12 to 18 at the max. So I don't know why we need to spend $9 million on a theater so that whoever attends the movies, and most of them are an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours max, so they can be comfortable. Those people bring their own chairs or their own cushions, and they're able to maneuver the chair so if there is somebody that's taller sitting in front of them, they can see. Sun City Grand, which is now called The Grand, these are their seats. And I don't know if the camera can zoom in, but they're a comfortable seat, but they can also be arranged in any formation. They also have tiered, where I don't know if it was their woodworking shop, but somebody made a platform so that the people sitting in the back are elevated. If you did something along that line using this type of seating and had the platform, people would be comfortable and they would be able to see, and the facility would be able to be used by a lot more many clubs. And I think that's our smarter solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Number 2, please.
Aviva Fleur, 171734. I am relatively new to Sun City. I've owned my house here for 2 years, and I was looking here for over a year before then. I am a theater girl through and through. I like the stage. I love the microphone. And I am a front of house manager, not only here, but have been doing so for over 15 years, working for many different municipal theaters throughout the valley. The Tempe Center for the Arts, the Mesa Arts Center, Scottsdale Center for the Performing Arts, Gamage Auditorium, and the Madison Center for the Performing Arts. Sorry, I wasn't trying to give you my resume, but just saying, I've been in some theaters. Please don't go with the retractable seats. Tempe Center for the Arts has a 600-seat theater with fixed seats and a 200-seat black box theater with retractable seats. In a smaller space like that, that makes sense. Limiting us to 420 seats and then going smaller, I do tend to agree we need to go, if we're doing anything, it would be bigger, not smaller. And I do want to let people know that PAC stands for Performing Arts Center, not movie theater. Thank you.
Number 3, please.
Dave Bruns, 170302. I just have a simple question. Were the estimates presented based on the fixed seating, or did we use retractable? Okay. I thought maybe there's room for, there's quite a difference between the seats. We could buy something else. That's all I have.
Number 4, please. Wait, hold on a second, ma'am.
My name is...
Hold on a second, ma'am.
You're good.
Everybody heard that online. The question was, were the estimates that were shown for the 3A, 3A, 3B based on retractable seating or based on fixed seating? The answer was those estimates are based on fixed seating. I want to make sure everybody that's watching heard that as well. Thank you.
So I just want to say, my name is Tamara Klopstein. I'm 179202. And I just want to say that I'm so glad that you're improving the fitness room, because that fitness facility at Mountain View has to be the most depressing area I've ever seen in my life. And second, I really, really hope you keep the therapy pool, because ever since we moved here, I've been wondering why there's no jacuzzi over there. And so I really hope you keep that option. And personally, I really like option 3 the most, but I guess option 3 would be okay. Anyway, thank you for your presentation.
Number 5, please.
Milt Lebsack, 130662. My slip says E5, so I presume I'm number 5.
We'll just go with 5.
Most of the people here are not going to like what I have to say. I'm one of the 3 people, and I think it's a whole lot more, who think the Performing Arts Center should be at Sundial. And nothing in here has convinced me otherwise, for several reasons. Number 1, from a real estate standpoint, the Mountain View location is the furthest south in Sun City, and most of the people who would be attending performances would be coming from further away than if they were going to Sundial. Secondly, Sundial has excellent sound audio facilities. From the drawings in here for the fixed seating option, if they were putting fixed seats in the middle, they would still have complete access to both sides for any other activity, and the fixed seating would not impede those. If what I'm looking at any rate, it appears that both sides on either side of the partition could still be used for something other than performances. And this is a vastly superior facility than what could be built at Mountain View. And from a selfish standpoint, I am a resident of Phase 1, have used Mountain View facilities for 10 years. There's been very little improvement done to them. I don't question that there's a need for renovation, but I don't think the Performing Arts Center there is the right idea. And in addition, my main concern from a selfish standpoint is that I would probably not be able to use the Mountain View facilities for a number of years, whether that's two or 3 years, and would have to go somewhere else, pickleball being the primary one, which I'm very much in favor of the way that it's done now, with one facility at the north end and one facility at the south end. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. If those pickleball courts were taken out, I don't know what facilities would be available to people in another part of the community. I suspect it would be someplace north of Grand Avenue, which of course would be less convenient for Mountain View residents. So basically, I'm still an advocate of Performing Arts Center at Sundial, and I recognize I'm in the minority and that that approach is not going to go over very well with the majority. But I had to state my opinion anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your opinion.
Number 6, please.
Hello, Celeste Highland, 114334. I'd like to address some of the points that have been brought up tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for fixed seating. I was worried about the steps. We have a lot of people in our community, not just that have wheelchairs, but have walkers, have canes, have mobility issues, and they need a stable, strong environment to be able to get to their seat and to be able to feel comfortable getting in and out at any time they need to during a performance. And I think the fixed seating with the sloped area would be much better for them. So thank you very much for that. I'd also like to talk about the location of Mountain View, as the previous speaker just did. First of all, you've seen Mountain View. It's in one of the original areas in Sun City. That needs to be brightened up and refreshed and look good, like the rest of Sun City looks, like this looks, like Marinette looks. Come on, people, that pool. Hello, the hot tub doesn't even work anymore. Let's go down the whole list of things in that area. I live right by there, and it's an embarrassment. I'm going to tell you, it's an eyesore, and you know it. So thank you very much. And, you know, you need to update all areas in Sun City to attract new and younger people. And that needs to be an ongoing project, not just a, you know, here, there. It needs to be a continual cycle of upgrading to attract newer people. And a plan like that, I'd like to suggest. The other thing is, as far as I'm a member of Players, and there are spaces, clubs have their own space in most instances, except for the performing arts clubs that have small storage units off of the Fairway Music Room. Well, all of our performance arts centers need storage space. We need storage space. We need a building area to actually build and construct different sets and things like that, and a place for our costumes and our props. It's a club. It's a club that's been in existence for over 50 years, and we're proud of that. We're one of the first primary clubs in Sun City, and we're very proud of the many years of performances and the way we've made people very happy when they've come to our performances. And we have a show coming up this weekend and next weekend. All right, thank you for the 30-second warning. So I'd like you to really consider those other spaces that a club needs: storage facilities, building facilities, et cetera. Small musical rehearsal rooms. I mean, this is what they have at Theater Works over there, the Peoria Performance Center. And I just would like to say, performance arts clubs are sharing. We share all of our spaces. Look at Fairway Music Room. So thank you very much, and thank you for all of the consideration. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Number 7, please.
I'm going to use your word. Let's see. Mary Shopper, number 128442. Thank you for the presentation. It was well done for one who did a lot of presentations. Okay. A lot of what I'm going to talk about is for the disabled, for the need for accessibility. Within the facility, there's been no mention about ramps or getting people into the facility. Parking, yes, parking will be addressed, but again, disabled parking. Within the theater seating, what is the plan? Is the plan like Harkins, where you have a seat, but then you don't have a seat for companion seating? And has that been a consideration? And then space for wheelchairs and walkers. Because if a person is going to be placed into a seat, you need somewhere to put the walkers, someplace to put the wheelchairs. And not only that, but then you're going to need a system how to get the right person with the right equipment. Clubhouse. Is a clubhouse going to be available for all RCSC members? Or is it pickleball only? And then in the original information that we got, there was a building for the performing arts where people had to do schlepping of scenes and costumes and all the rest of it. And I'd like to know if we have spaces for those schlepping scenes in the new, in the proposed building. That's all I got written down.
Well, thank you. And we have Vice President Nettesheim to thank for that schlepping term. I believe it's in Webster's dictionary, but
It is.
it's amazing. All right. You guys want to go ahead and address some of Mary's points here?
Yes, of course, I would love to. So option 3 includes in the main building, all of the spaces, ancillary and main, for the performing arts and other clubs to do the work that they requested they wanted to do. I know we say this word performing arts, but again, we met with orchestra, bells, we met with rhythm ramblers, we met with all of these groups. And so yes, those spaces are included in option 3. As a potential cost-saving idea, we might, depending on how the votes and the direction goes, we might look at seeing, can we pull some program out? It doesn't have to be the shop. It doesn't have to be anything in particular, but could we pull some piece of program out and put it back in the schlep zone?
No schlepping, please.
To your comment about the specificity of the seats and ADA, first off, we have not gotten that far, but we do know that there are strategies to accommodate a variety of mobility issues. And I do take to heart your comment about companion seating, because that was a blind spot for designers decades ago, that they would provide an ADA spot but not have a spot for their companions for them. And so those things are going to be addressed, and they're going to be addressed in a very real and detailed way. Those were the 3 main things I remember of your... Yes, the clubhouse. So when the clubhouse was discussed as a potential program element, it was made very clear that it was for everyone who would be on Mountain View. Anyone who wanted to use it could use it.
Cool. Thank you.
Number 8, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Strawn, number 144364. I moved out here to Sun City in 2018, and one of the things that brought me was your water aerobics. I've been to every pool in Sun City, and I've taken water aerobics in every pool except for Marionette. I really miss the hot tub at Mountain View. I know that it's a therapy pool, but I can't believe you would consider anything and not have the therapy pool there. We really like it. There's about 60 people in our 9 a.m. class. And today our class was at Oakmont, because I do Oakmont and Mountain View, and went to Oakmont and the hot tub was down. And there were a lot of disgruntled people there today because we really like being in the hot tub after doing our water aerobics. So I hope you would really, really consider the therapy pool in whatever you do. Thank you. And it was a really nice presentation. Thank you.
Number 9, please. Number 9. Number 10.
Hi, Jim Melanzi, 131326. What is the cost of all the planning that you've done already and every print that you have to make for buildings? How much does that cost? And how is that included in all the costs that you've already printed out?
The costs that we provided you today are everything. It's a total project cost, and I will defer to the board if they want to tell you what our fees are, but I'm not going to just offer that up right now. It just doesn't seem.
Just know that everything that they've put in, all the surveys, all of that, all the work they've done so far is included in those total costs. And so there's nothing added on for stuff that they've done previously. It's all in there. It's an all-in budget for each of the options. Number 11, please.
Yeah, Kurt Hollab again, 179606. Address maybe the hot tub first of all real quickly. Again, reinstating, I'd really like to see that, but I don't know if we're gonna have capacity for 60 that they have for the swimming pool. But I would be interested how big it might be. You know, you go, sometimes there are half a dozen people and maybe, I don't know, what, is there some thought on how big that might be?
I believe the baseline was 600 square feet.
Oh, 600 capacity.
600 people. So that lowered area, we're just going to fill it with water and warm it up. 600 square feet.
I was walking away from Mike, it was mentioned we have capacity for 1,200 plus here for those Wednesday night, and we sell out some of those. I'm bummed because that means that 400 capacity isn't going to accommodate, even in 2 shows, it's not. You know, if they had the people contracted to do an afternoon and evening, it's not going to work. And that's a big thing. That's bigger than the performing arts. Sorry.
Number 12, please.
Hi, once again, Greg Ingstrom, 37093. And I just wanted to make one comment. I'm sure the young lady that was upset about players getting their own facility. The Performing Arts Center is not for players or POMs or the particular clubs. We could put on a play in my house if all we were doing is doing it for ourselves. We sell tickets. We sell tickets for about 1,500 people per play, 3 plays a year. That's just us. The facility is for the people who come to watch, not necessarily for the club putting on the performance.
And just kind of to add to this, I was looking at some of the stuff that the SAC did years ago, and they had a whole list of potential uses for the auditorium. Players, board meetings and member exchanges, yeah, we could go down there instead of here. Much better to sit in. Handbells, choral events, orchestral events, recitals, library events, the movies that Lori mentioned. Lifelong learning, POMs, travelogues, tip-top dancers, might be too small for them. Ukulele, camera guild, community information, seminars, outside entertainment for smaller venues. There is a whole slew of things. I mean, if you look at the list of things that the Stardust Theater is used for in Sun City West, they have sometimes 2 or 3 events a day. And so it's, yeah, there are a myriad of organizations in Sun City that would use that facility. Number 13.
Hi, I'm Joe Klupel, 163713. I've only been here a little over 3 years, but I do enjoy going to see the players. And nobody has mentioned the biggest problem about putting on the shows there, and that's the acoustics. I hope you're really addressing acoustics that will solve the problem because it's terrible there. Another thing is, I noticed in your presentation, you have your seats right in a row. Would you consider staggering them so the row behind looks over the shoulders, not over the head? I would encourage you to really make sure that the seats are comfortable. I think there's about 8 or 10 people that come to the movies up at Marionette, and they bring pillows. And they have chairs just like this. So I hope they're a lot more comfortable. What would be the use of the flat floor with the movable seats at Mountain View? Because you've got this big room, you've got rooms at Oakmont, you've got a big room up at Marionette. Why would you need a big room there with all the extra expense of the high cost of the movable seats? I would like to encourage you to, when you make that slope a little bit higher than what it is, and you can use that for storage underneath.
It's going to be a concrete slab. There's not going to be any room underneath.
It's going to be dirt underneath there? Okay.
We can store dirt underneath there.
We could store you underneath.
Well, I mean, you can build it so, you know, it's a ramp, and then it could be storage. I would like to encourage you to have more seats. Even 420 isn't a lot. And you do need rehearsal space, storage space, and please consider the women and have twice as many bathroom spaces for women that you have for men.
You are now Vice President Ned Assiam's best friend.
So the baseline program for all of the options has 65-35 women to men fixtures as is needed for a performing arts. I just want to address a couple points that were made. We are at a very conceptual point in the design. We have theater consultant, we have an acoustician on our team. There are amazing programs that we run seating options through that optimize not only sight lines vertically, but sight lines horizontally. And that's how you start to see that kind of offset seating. But we're just not there yet at this point. But we have that capability, and we'll be introducing that capability into the final version of that space. However, this moves forward. So, yeah.
And that's one of the questions we had when you talked about flat floors is we do have a lot of flat floor space in Sun City. And people keep telling us that a lot of it is not used very much. So creating another flat floor space, in my mind, is a curious thought. Number 14, please.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. You're going to talk too? I do. Okay, sorry.
So just so everybody knows, and my board members know this, which is why I was doing the happy dance, I've been talking about the, what I call necessary amenities at the space for some time now. Making sure it's accessible, making sure that there's enough. I've been discussing that a lot because they should be wider, they should be longer. There's just a lot of things we've been talking about to accommodate people that are aging in place. So those are the things that I have been talking about a lot, and Treyarch and Lest Architects will tell you that it's been a topic of discussion for some time.
Okay. We're getting a little off topic now, so Treasurer Gray, you had waved at me a little earlier, and then I neglected to call on you. Was there a comment that you're good? All right, go ahead.
So now number 14, please. Oh,
Oh,
an
I'm
online
sorry.
one. Oh,
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Deermeyer.
I have a question and then a comment. So I'll start with the comment first. Jeffrey Little, 162994. He said, keep the therapy pool. It's the only rec center that doesn't have one. And then Steve Collins, 166871. Is it going to be a new pool that is the same shape? And why a therapy pool, not a hot tub?
So the pool is not a new pool, it's being renovated. The pool that exists is being renovated. We've had our pool consultant come up and do a walk to understand its current conditions, and we do feel confident that we can renovate the pool. So the pool will remain in its current form. There will be upgrades that have been requested from an ADA point of view. We'll look at maybe a new entryway, some bars, some seats, bars as in to hold on to, not swim up bars to drink at. Although that might be a great idea. We should think about that.
Getting off
wine and beer
topic
dispensing
again
machines,
here.
that's all I want.
Oh my God. And then, oh my goodness, I totally lost my train of thought. The therapy pool is a spa, is a hot tub. It's just an industry term.
nomenclature.
It is just an industry term.
Yeah, okay.
So does that cover both comment and question? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Nobody answered number 14, or is there a number 15? Okay.
All right. So everyone who has pulled in.
The lady in the striped shirt in the front row wants to talk.
Just hang on.
I've never called you anything besides that.
Anita Borski, 136312. Now that I'm on this side of the table, I want Plan 3, the expensive one. I understand we can't do that,
You didn't
but
say that a couple months ago.
well, I was on that side of the table. I have a new job now. I'm on this side of the table. Please, yes, please put the therapy pool back. That's a needed one. I just don't dumb it down. We've waited forever. If it's $1 million difference, I think our community would be more than happy to spend the $1 million to get a brand-new facility built. And thanks for all you're doing. I wish I was on that side.
Thank you, Anita. Has everyone spoken who wishes to speak? Well, that is a great question, yes. And where we are, yeah, well, actually, we had that discussion earlier, but where we are now is design. So we're hoping to get some progress on choosing one of those alternatives that were discussed today at the next board meeting. They will then run off and get creative with their design work. That then has to go out for bid, for contractors to be selected. Once that contractor is selected and the board chooses whoever that person is or firm is, then bring your shovel. All right, so we are frankly hoping to do that this calendar year, that there'll be shovels in the ground before we close 2026.
Depending on how long we take to make a decision on where we go from here, so they can go into the next part.
Just hold on, there's. Yes, go ahead, Karen.
Hi, Karen. Karen McAdam, 122045. I'm just curious, what is the budget for Mountain View?
Aha.
The PIF forecast has $28 million allotted for it.
Okay, so when I was on the board a few years ago, it was 27.3, so it's been nudged up to 28 million. And presumably your next decision as a board with respect to this project is going to have to decide whether you're going to go with Plan 3A or Plan 3B, is that correct?
Or Plan 3.
I would say all of those are in
All three were discussed
play,
tonight, and they're all on the
but,
table.
but yes, some of those would require an flexibility to that previous budget. And that's,
And what is the?
I'm having trouble with that, but.
Right, well,
but
I'm not
trying to read the
surprised.
room at the same time, so.
Okay, so what is the process for that decision to be made between 3, 3A, and 3B, or some hybrid of those?
Well, I think we will discuss those at, the plan would be hopefully to bring those to the next board meeting at the end of this month, that they would then be discussed, and as a motion, the members would have a chance to come up and speak to the motion, and hopefully we can have it with the information we've seen tonight from all sides, that the board would be able to reach a conclusion and decide on one of those three versions of alternative 3, send these guys out with some marching orders so we can move on to completing the design phase and get to the letting of the bids.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Director Brissett? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, she can go. She can go.
All right, go ahead real quickly, fine.
Barb Taylor, 167763. Just a general comment in regards to breaking ground, and maybe this might be pushing it a little bit, but it would be really nice if that would happen before us snowbirds start going back home, so we can partake in the celebration. When I get back. Oh, yes, when I get back, sorry.
It's not going to happen before April or May.
Okay,
Okay, so
sorry.
I'm, never mind. I
the-
was gonna make that's low hanging. That's just too easy, so
The excitement took over.
that's okay. Director Brissett, you wish to make a comment?
Yes, I would, thank you. I know there's been a lot of questions here about ADA plus. Can we get the wheelchairs in? I'm just going to say this real quickly. You can ask Triarch, you can ask my board members. I have been hot on ADA from the beginning. I have my best friend has ALS. He's got a 600-pound wheelchair, and I brought that up to Triarch. I want to be able to take him there. So when it comes to ADA, everybody has their little niche. I guarantee you I will push for all we can get within our limits, okay? Thank you.
Okay, I'm thinking we have reached the end of comments for this evening. I see no one else. So again, we will try and continue to pursue this at the next board meeting, which would be January 29th, right here at Sundial at 9 a.m. Exchange meetings after that are February 9th here again, and again, the annual meeting, which takes place on March 31st at 6 p.m. here. So seeing no other comments, we are adjourned. Turn your phones back on, and thank you for participating.
Thank you very much, folks.